Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. It's Wednesday and it's Underwater Wednesday, and I'm very excited to bring you this episode of Underwater Wednesday because we're going to be talking about topwater baits. But the interesting part about this episode is that when you see the underwater footage of what these topwater baits look like as they come over our drone cameras that are underwater, it's going to give you a lot of information about what the best topwater bait would be to throw given the certain circumstances that you're fishing. Is it clear water? Is it stained water? Is it deeper water, shallower water? Are there waves on the water, ripple on the water? Is it calm? These are things that are important to pay attention to. We've got 4 different types of topwater baits that we're going to throw in the pool, and it's going to answer some questions for you. So guys, I think you're going to want to stick around for this one. Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Again, Underwater Wednesday. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while. This is topwater baits. I picked 4 different topwater baits to throw. I eliminated frogs. We did an episode on frogs, hollow-bodied frogs and things like that, so I eliminated that. But I'm talking about, I threw a buzz bait, I threw a Chapo type bait, I threw a Spook type bait, and a popper type of a bait. The idea being, I wanted you to see what these baits looked like from a fish's perspective as they came by. Guys, before we get to today's Underwater Wednesday episode, I would ask that you would please hit the subscribe button, hit that notification button. Obviously, every Wednesday we put out Underwater Wednesday videos. We know they're popular, but if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that now. Let's talk about the reason that we're doing this episode. I think that it's important, if you can see the way these baits look from a fish's perspective, that will help you make a determination about which topwater bait you want to use given water clarity, whether there's waves or ripples on the surface, whether the sun is high or low, and those types of things. So let's take a look at some of these baits from a fish's perspective in the pool and kind of look at how this works. We're going to start with the slower moving bait. So we're going to start with the popper. And as you can see, this bait is making a commotion. It's absolutely able to be, the splashes and the turmoil that's occurring on the top of the water is able to be picked up from underneath the water. The popping motion, that concave mouth that creates somewhat of a splash, and all of those things, absolutely a good situation. The one thing that I would say about this bait is this is a bait that I would use in water that's calm to a little bit of chop on the water, but one that has some stain in it. You can tell. The one thing I will say about a popper, I'm not saying they can't get bit in crystal clear water. I know they can, but you absolutely, at that point, this is a bait that the fish is going to be able to see a lot clearer, and for a lot more time. The fish is going to be able to inspect this bait a lot closer than it would a bait that's moving faster, because that popper is going to sit still. So if I've got a little bit of stain, that's actually helping and working for me. It's still got the movement, still got the splash. Chop on the water can help with that as well, so that the fish can't distinguish exactly what it is. But this is actually, you're seeing this here, this is what that bait is looking like from a fish's perspective. Now when we move to the Spook type bait, you're getting a lot more erratic type of action, and it's moving more consistently. Although you can put pauses into it, this is where you can basically see as we're moving through here, you're going from baits that are on the top and they're kind of chugging along, popping along at a slower speed to one that you're moving faster and faster and faster. So with the spook type bait, you're able to move this at a faster rate than you would the popper. It's creating that commotion. It's creating that slashing back and forth type movement. And again, this is a bait where if the water was a little calmer, it would be fine, because the fish is never getting a real good look at that bait. It's constantly kind of slashing, and if you pause it, you're really pausing it to make that the time that the fish decides to strike. And if it doesn't, then you start that slashing motion all over again. The Chapo bait, as you can see, is creating that same kind of splashing, but now we're talking about, in these next two baits, the Chapo and the buzz bait, we're talking about baits that are creating a disturbance on the top of the water, but that disturbance is coming across the top of the water. It's absolutely, the fish is able to track that disturbance, whether it's the blade on the Chapo that's churning up behind it, or the buzz bait that's churning. But if a fish, and I'm going to slow this presentation down to show you, if a fish is tracking this disturbance, it sees where it's been, it sees where it is, and you see this area here, there's nothing there, which means that if a fish is going to hone in on attacking this bait, it's going to attack the source of that disturbance. I think this is one of the reasons you get such violent strikes on, say, a buzzbait, for example, because this is, the fish is honing in exactly on the source of that disturbance. Again, this is a bait where you don't need the water to be crystal clear. In fact, it might hurt you because it doesn't really look as realistic as a bait fish that's slashing back and forth and things. It's creating a disturbance. If you've got somewhat stained water, you've got that disturbance. All it's doing is honing in on the source of that disturbance, and it's going to eat it. And so stained water, fine, not a problem. Even dirty water, you can throw this Chapo or the buzz bait, and they'll work just as good in those situations. When you're talking about water that starts to get kind of choppy and there's more than just a ripple on the surface, now that disturbance that it's creating gets lost in all the other surface disturbance on the surface, and so you lose your ability to attract or have the fish hone in on the source of that disturbance. Guys, I really think that being able to look at these 4 top water styles in the pool and see them the way that a fish sees them, will help us make a determination about which bait we want to throw in which conditions. I'd certainly appreciate your feedback on today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.